It's Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 Training Camp React with Raj, Alex Rajameni,
Ryan Emmy.
My guy got it. My co-host got it.
Let's go, man.
Ryan Emmy.
No, Ryan Emmy. That's your Syracuse.
Ryan Emmy.
That's your Philoccuser right there. You better speak.
No, that doesn't mean I can
right.
Doesn't mean I can pronounce Swedish names. Swedish, right? Ryan Emmy.
They teach you how to pronounce the name Smith and Davis at Syracuse. The Finnish surnames not so much.
Finnish.
Hey, I figured out Coleman. I figured out Pearl Washington.
Boeheim was probably the toughest you had.
I figured out Boeheim. I got those down. You know, McNabb nailed it, got it.
Harrison.
So, Harrison, the tough ones. And Coach Mike Sanford joins us as well. We are going to get to the Broncos today, but first, a 30-second review of Olivia Rodriguez. What's her name?
Rodrigo. Yeah,
Olivia Rodrigo.
Taylor Swift.
Great show.
Yeah.
I'm talking I saw Zach Bryan a year ago at Red Rocks before he was filling up Empower Field.
Okay.
And just solely as a performer, I looked at my wife. I said, that dude's going to fill up stadiums a year from now. I had the same type of realization, the aha moment last night. And I didn't even really know many of her songs, but I'll tell you this, however many people Ball Arena holds for a concert, every single one of those people knew every single one of her songs and were screaming it at the top of their lungs. And she is a performer. So it was very good.
I understand you're in there with some of my pals from Old Chicago last night.
Yeah, it was great to meet them. I had a really good conversation with the couple. I'm drawing a blank on the name. It was my guy from Old Chicago, but he was a great guy.
Whose baby did you have to kiss to get into the box? I don't get those seats when I go to concerts.
Well, I have a little different arrangement, with altitude.
Oh, okay. All
right. I'm compensated slightly in a very unique manner, we should say.
Okay, let's leave that alone. All right, let's get to training camp today. Let's start with Sean Payton about, unfortunately, some big news and sad news on the day.
Looks like he fractured his ankle. That was definitely apparent. And, I'm not sure of the timeline relative to surgery, but that's always tough to see and to be a part of when you're at a practice. And it's one of the sometimes the bitter realities of our game. So he was having a real good camp. Any questions?
Coach, after something like that happens.
What he's talking about is Quinn Bailey, unfortunately, and this sucked. This is a moment in training camp. Raj, you and I were on the air live on 92.5, and maybe you can describe that moment when it happened.
Yeah, it was, again, I said there was a shocking moment yesterday at camp when we realized that Zach Wilson wasn't going to come in and take number 1 reps, let alone number 2 reps. This was even more shocking. Like, there was a complete hush that came across the field. I think you and Andy mentioned it. When there is an injury like that at training camp on a football field and you see players scatter like a bunch of ants where a droplet of water had been dropped off and they just scatter, you know something terrible has happened. This was a dude who was supposed to be your number 1 swing tackle, right? For an offensive line that stayed completely healthy last year. He was the guy that, God forbid that doesn't happen again, was supposed to step in if something happens to a Garrett Bowles this year and you have to protect the blind side of a rookie quarterback. It was shocking. It was sad. It completely changed the tenor of practice. And honestly, I think it's the reason why practice went late.
Mike, what's it like when that happens? I mean, a guy's season's over. You know it.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's very hard as a head coach. That was one of the things I wasn't prepared for when I was a young head coach, was going out onto the field and actually looking at and being one of the first responders, if you will, out on the field with some of these atrocious injuries that body parts aren't, in the areas they're supposed to be, and they're facing the wrong direction. That's typically, Raj, to your point, like when they scatter that way, it's because everybody sees what is on the field and sees that there's an ankle or a foot facing 90 degrees opposite the direction that it should. And that is, it rips your heart out, man. And especially as a teammate, I'll never forget a time as a football player in the college ranks. We used to play on an AstroTurf field, the old school bristle AstroTurf at Boise State. It was blue, but it was a brutal playing surface. And one of our teammates, I'm never forget. I heard him screaming from the sideline. I was on the sideline. He was on the field. He's a linebacker. He lifted up his leg, and his leg was out straight, but it was going 90 degrees the wrong direction. And I'll never forget that. That's an image that's just burned and etched into my mind.
Ah, my Lord. Okay. At some point, it's funny, not funny, but like if that happened in high school, practice is over, everybody go home. Let's maybe go to the hospital with the guy. It's high school. College, I think it gets a little bit more serious. And, I'm not exactly sure how that goes, but in the pros, I've seen it a million times. You wait till the guy gets off the field and practice goes on. Let's start with you, Coach. How do you mentally wrap your head around that moment and continue as a coach and a player when that has happened? And why are the pros so much non-emotional to it compared to lower levels of football?
For good or for bad, DMac, what I would say is that you become calloused to it because you have seen injuries like it. It doesn't make it that it's any less because it is your teammates, a guy that you are in the locker room with, and you probably had some funny conversations before the practice, but you've gone through it so much and you realize that the time that you do have on a football field as an NFL player, it's all measured by the NFL, by the league office. So that time has to be maximized, and it's a true business. You get used to just moving on and hitting the reset button. And I thought, from just listening live this morning to Dempsey Company here in Raj, and I believe Lindahl was on with you at that point in time, it sounded serious. Like I was like, this does not sound like the typical run of the mill, even ACL, or this is something that caught the look from the players that made their stomachs all kind of turn inside out. But I think it was the right thing for Sean Payton to pause practice for as long as he did, which probably was only 2.5, 3 minutes.
Not that long.
Not that long at all, man. Maybe 90 seconds.
Yeah. I've really been involved in I've worked for some head coaches where you could say that there's no sensitivity whatsoever, where there be somebody with their ankles going 45 degrees the wrong way, and then you flip the drill and you have that player get tended to as you're still practicing. So I'd say tip my hat to Sean Payton for showing a bit of a human side, a major human side, to acknowledge this isn't easy to see.
Well, Raj, it was that moment. Everybody's on a knee, and then everybody went over to dap him up as Quinn Bailey went off the field.
Yeah, listen, you talk about how it looks, how it visually scars guys. What I was hearing today is that this was an audio thing for the guys that were playing around him when that injury happened. It was something you could hear, and I think that. Right. And that's one that got me. Like when I never played at an NFL level for hockey, but I remember hearing a teammate's collarbone get snapped against the Bulls. And I can hear it like it happened yesterday. For those guys to be able to hear that, and like Quinn's a big dude, right? Like Quinn's 6'6" and 320 pounds. Like that's something that doesn't make a very small sound.
It's a big bone. It's a big man.
He's a big dude. And honestly, to take it a step after that, like having to turn the corner and get on with camp, for today to be Bo Nix's best day, good on the young man.
We'll get to Bo Nix in a second. I first want to touch just on that loss of the swing tackle, Coach. That's the guy. That's your sixth guy. That's your sixth man on the offensive line. What kind of difficulties does that involve, replacing a dude with that kind of value?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, a very respected swing tackle that this team's had multiple times, actually.
Yeah,
had
could play
last
guard
year
too, by the way. Could play guard as well.
And also, you got to think Cam Fleming was that guy for the Broncos. And last time I checked, Cam Fleming's not on this roster, if I'm not mistaken.
He is not.
Cam Fleming's made a living. He actually played for us at Stanford, of being like one of the best just emergency swing tackles in pro football. So you're down Cam Fleming, and obviously you're down a player that had swing tackle and interior flexibility. That's a big hit. But from a tackle perspective, I've liked what I've seen out of this. I believe it's David Pert, number 79.
Okay,
he has tremendous clay. He's a long, athletic, Just a really good looking left tackle prospect that has been running with the twos at left tackle a good chunk of training camp. And he's a guy that's caught my eye as a really large human being that can bend and move. So I do think that acquisition in this offseason is now looking like even better and one of those type of acquisitions that looked forward for potential contingency scenarios, which here we are.
Have you guys paid much attention or caught your eye with Frank Crum, who's the undrafted free agent out of Wyoming?
I've watched him. I watched him quite a bit. I watched the Saturday's practice, the best angle that I had because I was up there on the hill. And so I got to watch a lot more of the trench warfare in the offense and defensive lines. And he's been playing right tackle, which I think is a good position for him. I do think that he will be mentored by a very good run blocking physical right tackle in Mike McGlinchey. I think they're similar players. I think Frank Crum has athleticism for sure. But he definitely looked like he belonged out there and actually showed some really good signs of being a player that is now going to potentially be thrust into the second unit and will get some meaningful times in preseason games.
Yeah, maybe. This is a time though too that you do scour other teams as well, or veterans perhaps who aren't signed. And I don't know, maybe Justin Simmons is waiting for this kind of moment in the safety position. This is how Dodson came on to the Broncos. It wouldn't be the first time. Evan Mathis joined the Broncos in the 2015 season, Raj, during the championship run. So it's not that unusual that they could bring in somebody from the outside who has a little bit more experience.
I mean, I would expect them to bring in someone from the outside. Like you really think that it's either going to be Matt Pert or it's going to be Frank Crum, a rookie free agent from Wyoming, who's going to step in as that tackle.
Matt Pert, thank you.
Matt, Dave, it's the same name. I'm sorry, Mr. Pert.
Could be Neil Pert, which would be remarkable these days.
Melting faces.
Sure.
Yeah, I would expect them to go out and get some sort of veteran tackle or veteran guard that can help out with the depth. You're not going to continue to stay healthy here. And especially, again, if you decide to go with Nix as your number one, you can't go in there paper thin on the offensive line. I expect them to add someone within the next 2 weeks. There's going to be veteran cuts, and the team's got enough room. Like, they've got $6 million in cap space. You can find a retread swing tackle for under $6 million. I'd be shocked if they didn't.
The surprise standout from today who got high praise was Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the guy that jumped out was Josh Reynolds. I mean, shoot, he had 3 or 4 catches that were something else. I'll have a chance to look at the film and then, see how each one of those quarterbacks did. But, we had a heavy emphasis on third down. We had 2 periods devoted, exclusively to third down, as well as a pretty good portion of the walkthrough. So, that's where we're at.
Did you talk to Dan King?
Josh Reynolds having a day, as did Bo Nix. All right, coach, your reaction to that?
Yeah, he's a player that I've really enjoyed watching him as a route runner, but you've really only seen Josh Reynolds show up in, routes on air as a really in and out of breaks, has great body control, and, has had a couple issues with drops, not just in the NFC Championship game, but even yesterday's practice and Monday's practice. There were a couple balls on the ground that he could have gotten. That moment of leadership that I heard you talk about yesterday on PhD, DMac, Cortland Sutton going up to him after a drop pass and I believe it's a walkthrough, pre-practice walkthrough. Yeah. Those kind of moments mean something, DMac. I mean, you can say that it's all for the crowd or it's all for added effect. No, that means something. When Cortland Sutton said, "Hey, there's a standard that we're going to live by," he wasn't a jerk about it. He didn't go up to him and chew him out, but he showed him like, "Hey, man, this is how much pride we take." So he threw him like 2-3 extra passes is what I heard you say yesterday. Yep. And then Josh Reynolds went out and busted out 10 push-ups himself. I think that Josh Reynolds is going to be the number 2 receiver, on this team, the starting Z receiver, where I do believe that Marvin Mims is going to be more your gadget player. He's a player that needs to make some plays. I do think that Marvin Mims was the standout from OTAs. I think he's a standout from minicamp, but he hasn't made some of those plays. But the good thing for the Broncos is We were saying the same thing about Josh Reynolds a couple days ago, and here he is. He showed up and made big plays. I do think that having a veteran receiver that's not in the Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton mold of just big receivers, but true route runners, that's what I believe this team needs. Guys that can create separation at the top of routes, not just with straight linear speed vis-a-vis Troy Franklin.
Raj on Bo and Josh Reynolds. Thoughts?
I thought the 2 catches that he made on the sideline were sensational. I believe one was against Amari Mathis. It was like a little 15-yard out route that he had. He didn't have room. It was a great throw. It was the only person who could get to that ball was going to be Josh Reynolds. He found a way to get 2 hands on it, secure the ball 2 feet in bounds. If it was a move the ball drill in a period, you guys would have seen a first down and them start to march down. I also thought he had a beautiful catch on the left sideline. And that one was from Zach Wilson that he kind of threw down into the basket. The guy looked good on the outside. And that's what coach was talking about. He's an outside to in wide receiver for them. And I didn't expect that out of a guy who was like 6'2". You expect those types of Suttons or Tim Patrick, 6'4", big guys who can go up and get the ball to be outside in receivers. But if he's that precise running routes, like this is a guy who I think is going to be your second most targeted wide receiver, as coach said. And he should be. Like he's the one who I think you can be expected to be the safety blanket for Knicks. He looked good. They looked comfortable together. And if that's the marriage, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one more point that I thought of just today's practice being such a big third down emphasis day, and also really Bo Nix's first reps in full pads on a third down day. I expected to see Tim Patrick get a lot more of those targets. I expected Tim Patrick to be a humongous part of what the Broncos were going to do on third down situations. And it didn't appear that Tim Patrick was necessarily all that productive today. Now, granted, we're still in the front third of training camp, so there's still a lot that can happen. But Tim Patrick is one of those players. I'm just curious to see how this plays out for TP, because I just haven't seen the production on a consistent basis yet from Tim Patrick being out there.
Raj?
With how good David Sills and Devon Vele have looked, and the fact that you utilized a mid-round pick on a wide receiver this year that went to the same school as your quarterback did, are we not talking about Tim Patrick enough being a veteran cut?
Well, that's possible. And all right, who are our wide receivers? Let's go. Give it to me. Sutton, Mims, Reynolds. Right?
That's your starting 3.
Those are your 3.
Right?
And that would be from outside, and then your inside is Mims, your other outside is Reynolds.
Give me 4.
Franklin's making the team. You picked him. You're not going to cut him. You're going to pick him and cut him 2 months later?
Let me give you an argument. Vele was a draft pick too. Franklin was a 4th rounder, not a 2nd rounder, not a 3rd rounder. Fell to the 4th round. Vele was a 6th rounder. 100% Franklin over Vele? 100%.
2 different skill sets, 2 different body types.
Very different.
I think that you got to think about it from the standpoint, can Troy Franklin be the guy that's playing behind Reynolds and duplicate that skill set? And the positives I've seen from Franklin are linear speed, getting behind coverage. And I'm talking about straight line go routes, post routes, maybe one cut. But to create separation at the top as a route runner, I haven't seen it yet. I think the Broncos are going to need that from that mid-body type that's that 6.
I'm going to tell you something about Franklin too, man. The guy gets chewed out every damn day. I get it. You care about him.
Is he still?
Oh,
Was he today?
Again today.
Yeah. It had calmed down a little bit.
Vele there's a sense of immaturity going on with Franklin. What can I tell you? Okay. He's not getting something for some reason. Vele went on a 2-year mission. He's 26 years old and he's taller. Okay. Let me give you another guy. Like you mentioned him, Raj. David Sills.
He gets open.
Let's not sleep on this dude. Another not only looks much more like a tight end than a wide receiver, but if we're just talking big fellas that occupy space, I saw Bo Nix throw the NFL pass, the 15 up, out, that pass. I get
One-on-ones.
I get it. One-on-ones. And what I saw out of Sills was like a power forward boxing a smaller guy out. Like
he did that yesterday.
There just wasn't a way to get around Sills. And we saw Raj right in front of us. Remember that? Like over the head, deep pass, pretty nifty catch by 87 right there.
Yep.
Never mind the fact that he's wearing 87. That's a McCaffrey number. But like he's making that play too. I'm going to give a dark horse keeper on this team to David Sills the 7th or something. I think he's got a Roman numeral.
The 4th. You know, his lineage goes back to
it's a 5.
I believe it was World War I was the first David Sills. And here we are in 2024. But
your generation's correct there.
Yeah. So I look at the receiver position in the competition, not necessarily as 1 through 6. I look at it as the body types. And we say that Courtland Sutton's your starting X receiver outside, typically in your singled up coverages. Your F, which is your slot, is Marvin Mims. And then your Z is Josh Reynolds. Okay, now, what are the body types that are going to compete for number 2 at those positions? Right now, the number 2 Z that I've seen as a route runner in production is Brandon Johnson. He's been
here. He's been here.
I mean, do you guys realize that Brandon Johnson had the second most touchdown receptions on this football team a year ago?
Yeah. I did not know that. I didn't know it, but it doesn't surprise me.
Outright second most touchdowns, and he wasn't even an opening 53 guy, I believe, to start the season.
Well, we're not even talking about Jalen Virgil, who is sometimes the most dynamic player on the entire team last year.
He's been quiet, hasn't he? This camp, it just seems like I haven't seen his number called. I haven't seen him make any plays. That's Saturday.
I guess what I'm saying is, to me, Troy Franklin is not a slam dunk.
No,
and if you want
slam dunk,
if you want to cut Tim Patrick, be careful, okay? This dude just catches footballs, makes plays, has an unbelievable attitude. And if he needed to play special teams, which is the way he made his bones and made the team in the first place, by the way, he's more than willing to do it. And the dedication and determination he's taking to get back, just think twice before you cut a dude like that. That's all I'm saying.
That's a locker room play to you, not a personnel play. That's a locker room play to you.
He's both. He can play.
That's like waiting too long. That's like waiting too long, and then Stidham separates himself like crazy, and then the room knows he's the best quarterback, and you go, "Whoa, we're gonna throw Bo Nix in there. Eat it, boys." That's the play that you're thinking right now.
So we established the Z receiver position. To me, it's a 3-man race. It's a 2-man race behind. The Z being Reynolds. Behind him, it would be Brandon Johnson, Troy Franklin competing for the. So there's 6 receivers you keep. You know, they're one of those guys can be the odd man out for the active 53. All right, let's talk Fs. Who are your slots? Okay, your real slot receivers. We know Marvin Mims Jr. The guy that's been productive this entire camp is Michael Bandy. And I know it'd be insane to keep him, but who else is going to be your nifty slot receiver on this roster full of really large human beings? We haven't even mentioned little Jordan Humphrey yet.
Yeah, he's a good day too.
Yeah, he's had a good day the last 3, I believe. And I don't know if little Jordan Humphrey figures into the slot, even though he's massive, but he has played in the slot in the past. He can play X. I think he's got versatility. And then the X position we already talked about, man, it's Courtland Sutton. He's clearly number 1. After him, it's Tim Patrick, Sills, as you mentioned, Devon Vele. You know, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
I tell you this, man, there's not a lot of like breakaway. You know, I throw the ball on a screen like DT, I throw it out there, and there he goes. However, boy, are there a lot of just tall, lengthy, athletic dudes that can high point and challenge catches. And that screams red zone to me. Mm-hmm. So when I look at how this team is constructed, it really seems we're going to beat the crap out of you to drive the ball, and then we're just going to put it up in the air, this, that, and the other thing. And for Bo Nix, who's a pretty accurate quarterback, man, coach, I think that makes a lot of throws a lot safer and more, makeable for a rookie quarterback.
Insofar as you can create some separation in the open field, right? I mean, that's the big thing with bigger receivers, bigger body types. A lot of times you can get just latched onto, to be honest. And so you do need your niftier route running types. It's why I do think that the slot conversation's an interesting one, particularly in third downs. Who's your backup to Marvin Mims Jr.? Is there actually going to be a specialist on third down that can understands how to create the option route separation, is dependable? I think this thing's going to have some interesting turns, and I don't think it's going to be as simple as receivers 1 through 6 and the biggest names and how they got there. I think they're going to think about the big picture and how it all figures together.
I will give you a curious slot quote unquote receiver, Greg Dulcich.
That's the guy. And he was talked about glowingly today by Peyton. Sean couldn't say enough good things about Greg Dulcich and how hard he's worked to get back. And the fact
would you like to actually literally hear Sean Payton say those nice things about Dulcich?
Of course I would.
Well, here we go.
I'm probably already there relative to, I'm not thinking, I'm watching him make progress and encouraged with how he's doing. And when I see him, I'm like, man, you're looking good. And, but certainly we'll do a preseason practice list where we'll have level 1, level 2, level 3 guys that we'll just give a day. And it be either a veteran player, like an older player, a player coming off an injury. And so I haven't thought that much about his injury past, and yet certainly we think about it when we're scripting and making sure we're counting his reps. So a lot of it is done ahead of time.
Where's been your impressions of him so far?
Okay, talk to me about Dulcich, Raj.
He's the key. If he can stay healthy, he is the key to making this offense go, right? Like, are they going to be a shot offense where you're going to be able to pick up the 35, 40-yard gains game in and game out? Probably not. Like, you might get a few here if Marvin Mims decides to blow the top off the defense and there's a blown coverage, you catch someone in cover 1. Like, you might be able to do that. But your key is living between 7 and 10 yards and having Greg Dulcich be completely healthy. And if he's healthy, he changes everything for a guy like Bo Nix. Absolutely everything. I don't need him to block. I can have my running backs do that. I can have Audric Estime chip a guy coming off the edge just to give my quarterback an extra half second. If that dude isn't healthy, you've got huge issues. I was about to say, before you brought up Dulcich, I went, well, the issue with the running back stables is while I like it, they don't have a guy that they can split out and make a smaller slot wide receiver. Kind of, the way that, and again, I know this is the rich having their riches like the 49ers do with Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. They don't have a guy on this roster who can do that. So it's got to be Dulcich.
I think even Alvin Kamara from Sean Payton's background, right? I mean, Alvin Kamara was utilized.
Well, hold on. I'll give you the guy that could do it. But I was going to say Samaje Perine, but I think they're going to cut him. But he was that guy last year.
Yeah,
look at his catches. I think he caught 52 passes on 56 targets.
But I think a lot of those were checkdowns, DMac. When you watch him being the third down back, and he showed up today again as just showing how much value he brings to this team on third downs as a pass protector. I think that Samaje Perine, man, it's easy to sit here and say that he's going to be the odd man out, but man, you sleep a lot better at night.
He's a house.
That knows how to pass protect, that knows how to pick up the variety of different blitzes, and actually has a catalog of different defensive coordinators in the NFL and what they're trying to get accomplished. And he's done it in games. He's done it other places. So
so who are your running backs then?
Gosh, man, this is tough. I mean,
come on, man.
It's hard. Like, I see in our comments here, Broncos keeping 7 receivers. I'm like, man, well, let's talk about the running backs. Let's even talk about the tight ends. 7? Well, that's what, in opinion, of course, but Tim Patrick, Sutton, Reynolds, Franklin, Mims, Vele, little Jordan Humphrey. Well, somebody's going to end up, one position group's going to end up short. How could it be the running back position? You're not cutting Javonte Williams. He's had an unbelievable training camp from what I've seen. You're not, Blake Watson, that's a good idea, but now you're going to get to potentially 5 running backs. Audric Estime is making this team. Jaleel McLaughlin's making this team.
Javonte Williams is making this team, and Michael Burton, because they are going to play with the fullback.
I have a differing opinion on that.
You think Sean Payton is going to cut a fullback from New Orleans?
The way that Nate Atkins has been used in this training camp as a move tight end, the body type, he's been the guy who's been chippy. He gives you more versatility. Like you can line up Nate Atkins from the I formation. This is what everybody's doing in the National Football League.
Hey, do not get me wrong. I've been screaming anti-fullback for the past 10 years.
Well, you can still live. Like I even at CU, we didn't have a fullback body type, but I wanted to run some old school 21 personnel type of looks. Brady Russell was that guy for us. So Brady Russell, he's 6'2.5". He's a tight end body, but he could go in there and do the job that a fullback can do. Maybe not at the elite level that Michael Burton can do as a blocker, but you frankly just need to get in good positions as a blocker at the fullback position. I think Nate Atkins can end up filling that spot.
Raj?
Michael Burton only played 18% of the offensive snaps last year.
I get it.
That's
and that's a ton for fullbacks, but it was Sean Payton's idea to keep him in the first place.
You can't find another one?
Fullbacks to me are a waste of time in the NFL, period. And there's people that just love fullbacks. But if you're at the goal line, I'd put just a tight end as an H-back because I don't even get it. A fullback is what, 230, 235, where you could put a tight end or somebody that's 265, 270 in that position. I don't get fullbacks. I don't understand them. And I've been screaming at the wind at this for years. So would I cut Michael Burton? Hell yeah, I would cut Michael Burton. He wouldn't be on the team. There's just other guys that can do more. And so it's like the most ridiculous was Jano. Well, we had 22 Janos. We'd be all right. I mean, Jesus. And the guy was out of Nebraska too. Like, who needs him? And yeah, I get it. You're all high school. I do understand it. You try harder. I understand it. I'm always, coach, going to go with the guy who's bigger and more athletic. If we had 22 Janos, we'd be losing by 70 points every game. It's not Rudy out there. It's the freaking Iron Man.
DMac, I love the fullback position. I see my guy T-Bone 303 saying fullback is a man's position. I agree. When I first heard you say that you're disgusted with the fullback position, you know what that makes me want to call you, DMac? Un-American. Because the fullback position is an American position. It's what this country is founded on, man. Just tough guys, right?
Who was the big goofy dude that the Avs kept on the roster for like 2 full seasons, and then they finally shipped off to New Jersey?
Oh, come on.
The guy who couldn't skate.
Couldn't get in the playoffs to save his life. He went to New Jersey to fight.
And he didn't even fight anybody.
He fell over. Now, he fought the guy from the Rangers. He fell over with the Stanley Cup at the country bar.
Curtis McDermott.
Dermy. Oh, they love Dermy. We love Dermy. Couldn't skate. Come on.
So DMac, I disagree with your sentiment towards the position, but I fully agree with not just the utilization of a bigger body type as the fullback, but what it does do is it gives you the personnel that you put in. You put in Nate Atkins. The defensive coordinators are making their calls based off of what personnel is running onto the field. Well, if Nate Atkins runs out on the field, he can be an inline tight end, or he could be a slot. He could be spread out.
Of course.
Or be in the backfield. And therefore, you have more versatility. You have more unknowns when you do call your play in based off personnel. I've already seen it during training camp. I think that there's a real competition with Nate Atkins being the third tight end that's kept on this roster and then not bringing Burton. And I think it would make a whole lot of sense.
Fine by me. I'm just telling you the lineage of Burton, okay? And it's a Sean Payton guy from New Orleans that he brought in last year. And he's one of these dudes that, try hard and, I don't know, wears overalls. Who knows? All right, let me. I'm gonna call this a little bit of a game before we wrap up here. This is called "How Much Do I Hate the Media?" Here is Greg Dulcich for like a minute straight being asked about injuries. Let's play "How Much Do I Hate the Media?"
Was it frustrating for you?
It was definitely a long road. And it kind of took a lot of eyes, and we were finally able to hash it out and get me in good shape. So I appreciate our, medical staff, our training staff, our strength staff, and everyone for, kind of working to get me right.
Did you feel like a mystery of some sort that you wanted somebody to give you an answer that's definitive?
I don't know. It was kind of just a lot of just trying to figure it out, like I said, and eventually we got it done, so I'm glad that we were able to.
By your estimation, how many different doctors' appointments?
It wasn't a ton of different people. It was just trying different things to get me better, we were able to finally get it done. So,
but they would try something different.
Okay, how many questions? Well, seriously, that's just a sample. The dude got like 12 questions about his injuries and how he's feeling, and that's going on. All right, Raj, how much does that guy hate those type of questions?
Scale of 1 to 10?
Sure.
I give it an 8. I give it an 8. He likes being up there because he gets to wear the cutoff and he gets to show off the guns. He's got great hair, great guns. But as soon as you get asked question 2 and 3, then you want to start putting on jackets and getting out of there. And all right, I'm done.
Coach,
I thought he handled it like a total pro from what I just saw. I thought he didn't, that he wasn't smacking his lips, giving the Caleb Williams answer when he doesn't like the question that's asked. I thought he was a total pro. And the reality of it is that's been his history here as a Denver Bronco. You have to face the music. And I thought he acted like somebody who faced the music knowing that he was going to face the music. And I thought he handled it very well.
I wish I would have seen it live. I left a little bit early. I had to come back and see if my house was still standing after this freaking.
How is your house doing there, Raj?
This thing's like 6.5 miles away. It's a lot closer than I want it to be.
Dude, I saw Scott Hastings' lovely wife, Julia, went to Chatfield Reservoir. The warden went to Chatfield Reservoir and filmed. This was wild. Planes and helicopters gathering water up. I've never seen this before. The helicopter has a big hose. I kind of get it. It hovers. It sucks up the water. Very, very cool. Cool. Fine. The plane lands. Are you following me? Plane lands on the lake, opens something up, and gets a bunch of water in its belly, and then lifts off again. I mean, it's like Sully Sullenberger landing on Chatfield Reservoir to put out the fire. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I thought they were rerouting planes down to the Springs. My wife and I were coming back from like a happy hour dinner earlier tonight, and she goes, look at the bottom of that thing. That's going to go drop a bunch of water on those fires over there. They're just circling.
Listen, man. God bless everybody else.
Talk to me about Bo Nix today, because today I wasn't able to make it out to practice. I got all the different opinions of all the different takes that the Denver area media and the X takes and everything. How good was today, based off what you guys saw with your own eyes, not what everybody else is saying? Give me your take, not the collaboration aggregation of everybody's takes.
I thought it was solid. I didn't think it was as eye-opening as the weekend practice that he had when he bounced back from the interception. That was the one that I went, oh wow, like you can do this thing. But I thought he was good. I thought he was solid. Maybe it was a little bit of an overreaction because he had a bad day, first day with the ones and pads. I wasn't blown away, and I would expect that you felt the same way, DMac. I thought it was good. I wasn't floored.
I think Bo Nix is on a pass-fail basis. Okay, and Coach, you would have been stunned how many fail days Russell Wilson had in training camp over the past 2 years. Stunned by fail days. I don't think Bo Nix has had a fail day. And today, I don't think so.
DMac, if from the perspective of checking plays, working with the first team unit on day one of pads, that was a fail. It was a rookie fail, but it was an absolute fail. You don't have that many TFLs in practice if you're making the correct checks.
Let me tell you this, man. Today wasn't one of them days.
Right.
It was pass all the way. And all he has to do, in my opinion, to earn the starting job is to pass many more days than he fails. So he is stacking days. And they did have Zach Wilson running with the twos, Stidham with the threes. So I don't know if Zach Wilson's like completely out of it, but seriously, fellas, unless Zach Wilson falls apart, and they will not be in pads tomorrow. So it won't be a day that you get judged the same as these past couple days. That's a CBA rule. Sean Payton is actually pushing practice to the absolute max based on what he can do. We are not having Camp Hackett. It is not some sort of, leisure time out there. He is using all the time he possibly can. That is happening. And let me play one more thing. He announced the starters will play in the
I don't want to say I'm old school, but, 2 years ago, we were last in the league with players injured and lost for the season. I think 130 some players missed games 2 years ago. Last year, we finished first in the NFL. With 34. So we're going to play our starters in the preseason.
What's your reaction to, we'll get more to Bo Nix, but what's your reaction to that, Coach?
First off, my biggest reaction is, did Sean Payton go out and get a buzz? He got a new haircut,
I don't want to say I'm old school, but
okay, looks all right.
He had a lot more lettuce going, man, early on in training camp. I think it means business. He's ready for that. He had that 3-guard on, ready for training camp now. I think it's a smart thing for this team. Who are the definitive stars of this football team? Who are the sacred cows of this football team? That's it.
Surtain, Sutton.
Nix.
No.
God,
What do you
no.
mean he's not a sacred cow? You used number 12 pick on him.
Not for a
You need him to
preseason
play
game.
football, Raj. Like, he has to play football.
Yeah.
He has
The
to
only
test the waters, man.
you're talking about for preseason games.
Yeah, I'm saying where you don't like I'm saying,
Got it.
I'm saying proven commodities, superstars, like, you know, the guys that you think about, you know, the receiving core at, you know, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah,
right?
I'll say it's Sutton, Surtain, Javonte Williams. As long as everything's going well, they're going to want him, and they're not going to want to put him at risk. So I would say Javonte, Sutton, Surtain. The problem is if you're going, you got to play your whole offensive line. It just is what it is. I mean, that's a very high price line, but you got to play your line if you're going to play Bo Nix, right? You can't sit those guys on the bench. Dude. So they're kind of sacred cows, but you got to play them anyways. I'd say that's it. I'd say there's three. I'd say there's three guys. Three guys on the entire
about
team.
playing Dulcich.
No. You need to see him play football. You can. Hey, listen, man. You could vet cut Dulcich. Okay, you can. You don't have that much invested in him, and you have other guys playing tight ends.
The word that I love that Sean Payton used when talking about why playing starters in preseason training camp, he used calloused. Like, we need to become a calloused football team. And Greg Dulcich is the poster boy of somebody who needs to become calloused by playing real football and doing it at game speed against competition before you know you can trust him to do it over the course of a 17-game season.
All right, boys.
I have one more about Bo Nix.
All right, go for it.
So I kind of, from a few people I talked to, you know, off the grid, a lot of people had a very similar take to Raj, that today was not exactly a coronation, like, wow, all over the place, like using the term throwing the ball down the field. A lot of these were comeback routes on the outside in that 13 to 18 yard area, which are good throws. But it's not like it was bombs over Baghdad, like we've all been wanting to see Bo Nix hook up on some of those plays on deep shots. The one thing that I really take out of this Bo Nix day to day as a positive is on Saturday, he was faced with a situation that you have to be good in the National Football League at this position, at the quarterback position, to be a starting quarterback and a worthy quarterback of being in the top 15 conversation. That was red zone. And to use your pass-fail system, that was a pass. And to me, Saturday's practice was like a pass with an exclamation point. And ironically, that was the one area at Senior Bowl that he really shined, was in the red zone during the week of practice. He didn't shine on third down day, and he certainly didn't shine on open field play action down the field shot day. But man, when you got into the red zone, he was on fire. He's the best quarterback out there. And that included my guy, Michael Penix Jr. at that Senior Bowl. Now, my question has been third downs. And the fact that he was able to pass on a third down day, the two most important situations that a quarterback has to be at his best are red zone and third downs. And he's passed in those 2 days in pads, and he's shown it. And so I think the thing that he's got to start showing, the next check for me that I'm looking for, and I know it doesn't matter to Sean Payton, but in order to have a quarterback that you feel can be an NFL starter, I want to see him operate at a high level, first and second down in the open field, and create some type of explosiveness with down the field passing.
Well, I think we should leave it there. Frankly, you said you had a question, and really you had a statement to make. There really wasn't a question.
I just said one more on Bo Nix. It was one more of my comments. I don't care about your comments on Bo Nix.
Raj, that's clear. I think we all understood that. Okay, boys, we'll give it a wrap so we can watch some sort of Olympic sport that we'll never watch again for 4 years, but I'm going to guess there's something like that on TV that we will desperately root for. And if they do a profile about the home life, I will cry. What can I tell you?
The Chinese are going to smother us in diving. That's all I know tonight.
Yeah, I'm a little bit done with synchronized diving. I'm not going to lie. I've seen enough synchronized diving.
Listen, man.
I sure as hell like watching swimming, though, man. I'll
tell you this. As soon as Mike Tirico goes to bed, turn off your TV. That's all I'm saying, because whatever sport is on next sucks. By the way, Coach, Syracuse, Tirico. Yeah.
Oh, boy. It's a who's who in the broadcast journalism world. I get it. I know this. Boy. I'm not. You know, yeah. I went to the Harvard of the Rocky Mountains, man. Boise State. big time academic, just unbelievable in
Great
every
colors
area.
at Boise State, though, you know?
Fantastic. At least it's not Iowa. All right. We'll say goodnight for now. Who's on the air tomorrow, by the way? Who's on at 10 a.m.?
Can you tell me, Raj?
Myself and Mark Bertinoli. And
All
then
right.
whoever is out at camp, I would love to talk to you out at camp starting at 10.
I will be there, Raj. I will be there, and I will give you some updates.
And we always lean on you, Coach Sanford, from noon to whenever they kick us out of there. And that's going later and later, by the way, which is pretty nice. So there's no doubt we'll have it covered for you with, not Vic. He's in Italy, but with, who's filling in? Is anybody filling in for Vic or is it just Kaner and Moj?
I'll be filling in for Vic on Friday. It'll be me and Kaner from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Friday.
Moj is taking off Friday? What's he doing?
These guys don't like football, man. Do they?
People don't work anymore.
Golly, man.
It's training camp, man. We got a quarterback battle. We got a receiver battle. We got a tight end battle. There's battles everywhere.
I get it. I'm not missing a second that I can't miss. And we'll be out there on Saturday as well, where Saturday may be the most interesting practice of all. It seriously may be that. With the day off on Sunday, you may see whatever needs to be held for that coronation. And don't forget, the first preseason game is August 11th, 11 days from now. Today's the last day of July, fellas. We are hardcore into football season, and we got it covered for you, both on the radio and right here for Altitude Sports 92.5. See ya.